The Titanic is sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean right now. We know the exact coordinates. We've sent cameras, we've sent submarines, we've even sent paying tourists down there. So why hasn't anyone just brought it back up, turn it into a museum, charge admission, make a fortune? People have tried. For over a century, engineers, billionaires, and salvage companies have proposed dozens of plans. Every single one failed. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why we might never see this ship again. The Titanic rests about 12,500 feet below the surface. That's 2.5 miles straight down. Stack the Empire State Building on top of itself 8 times, it still wouldn't reach the wreck. At that depth, water pressure is around 6,000 pounds per square inch. That's roughly 400 times what you feel standing on a beach. Your lungs would collapse instantly. And in June 2023, the world saw exactly what that pressure does. The Titan submersible, carrying 5 people down to view the wreck, suffered a catastrophic implosion. The carbon fiber hull collapsed in a fraction of a second. Everyone on board died instantly, and the vessel was reduced to fragments scattered across the seafloor. That's what 6,000 pounds per square inch does to a purpose-built deep-sea machine. Now imagine trying to rig cables and lifting equipment down there, in total darkness, in near freezing water, 2.5 miles from the nearest breath of air. Let's say you somehow solve the pressure problem. You've still got another issue: weight. The Titanic displaces over 52,000 tons, roughly the weight of 36,000 cars. No crane on Earth can lift that. No cable system ever built could handle that load from that depth. And here's what most people don't realize: the Titanic isn't down there in one piece. It broke in half as it sank. The bow and stern are separated by about 2,000 feet of open ocean floor. The bow looks intact in photos, but the stern is a twisted, unrecognizable pile of steel. Over a century of corrosion has weakened everything. Railings have already collapsed. Decks are buckling inward. If you attached a cable and started pulling, the ship wouldn't rise, it would disintegrate. That hasn't stopped people from trying anyway. One famous proposal: fill the wreck with millions of ping pong balls, using the trapped air for buoyancy to float it up. Clever on paper, except at 6,000 pounds per square inch, every single ball would be crushed flat instantly. Useless. Another plan suggested injecting the hull with petroleum jelly to displace water and create lift. Someone else proposed encasing the entire ship in a giant block of ice. Engineers at the BOC Group actually ran the numbers. It would require 500,000 tons of liquid nitrogen pumped to the seafloor. Not exactly practical. And then there's Clive Cussler's 1976 novel Raise the Titanic, where the hero patches the hull, fills it with compressed air, and the ship rockets to the surface like a submarine blowing its ballast tank. Great scene, but it was written before anyone knew the ship broke apart. And even if it hadn't, no hull could contain that kind of pressure differential. But one piece of the Titanic was successfully brought to the surface, and the story is almost as dramatic as the sinking. In 1994, RMS Titanic Incorporated spotted a massive hull fragment in the debris field, roughly the size of a bus, with 4 portholes, 3 still holding glass. They called it the Big Piece and decided to bring it home. The first attempt, in 1996, used flotation bags to lift the 15-ton fragment. Thousands of spectators watched from nearby ships, including actual Titanic survivors. The bags broke the surface, the crowd cheered, and then a hurricane hit. The line snapped, and the piece plummeted back to the bottom. 2 years later, in 1998, they tried again with better equipment. This time, it stayed up. Today, it's on permanent display at the Titanic exhibition in Las Vegas, viewed by over 22 million people. That single 15-ton piece took 4 years, 2 full expeditions, and millions of dollars. The full ship weighs 52,000 tons. While humans argue about salvage, something else is quietly destroying the Titanic. Those reddish-brown icicle-like formations hanging off the hull, scientists call them rusticles, colonies of iron-eating bacteria. Touch one, and it crumbles to dust, taking part of the ship with it. In 2010, researchers at Dalhousie University discovered a species living inside those rusticles that had never been found anywhere else on Earth: Halomonas titanici, bacteria specifically adapted to consume the ship's steel. The Titanic is estimated to be losing hundreds of pounds of iron every single day. Some researchers believe it could be completely gone within 20 to 30 years. Others say a century. Either way, it's disappearing. But there's another reason the Titanic has never been raised, and it has nothing to do with engineering or money. More than 1,500 people died when the ship sank on April 15, 1912. Most were never recovered. When Robert Ballard first discovered the wreck in 1985, his initial excitement gave way to something heavier. He and his crew held a moment of silence, standing over 1,500 graves in the dark below. The bodies are gone now, dissolved by over a century in the deep deep, but their shoes remain. Leather is one of the few materials sea creatures avoid, so scattered across the debris field, exactly where passengers fell, are pairs of shoes sitting undisturbed on the sediment. A mother's shoes next to her daughter's. In 2012, exactly a century after the sinking, the United Nations declared the wreck a protected cultural heritage site. In 2019, the US and UK ratified a treaty restricting activity within a 1-kilometer radius. The wreck is treated with the same respect as a cemetery, because that's what it is. So the real answer is layered. We haven't raised the Titanic because we can't. The depth is too extreme, the pressure too crushing, the ship too fragile. But we also haven't raised it because we shouldn't. Somewhere in that corroding steel and settling sediment are the last traces of people who never made it home. Maybe not a museum, maybe not an attraction, just the quiet deep and time doing what time does.